Hey guys, Lisa Callaghy here to share with you a video on the Exact Path Impact Report for administrators in schools. And for this video, we're going to go over the school and students features within or filters within this report. There is another video that I just finished recording on the overview feature of this impact report. So each one of these will show you data in either a different way or more detailed. So let's start with schools. So in the school view, this tab allows the comparison of results for a grade band or an individual grade here where we get to choose. Now you could do it across schools. So this report would be more beneficial to admins that have access to multiple schools, which would be district admins. But there is still some data that you can see as a school admin. So let's take a look at what a school admin can get from this filtered impact report under schools. So you're choosing schools, your school is selected, you get to choose your grade level or grade level band, subject again. Academic year, we want to choose last year, and we want to choose our test windows 1 through 4 because 1 was the test we took in September, the diagnostic in September, and the diagnostic in June is testing window 4. So let me switch this down to first grade. You'll see that it's filtered now and tells me how many students, but I must hit apply in order for the data that I just selected in my drop-down menus to then filter or appear down here in our charts and graphs. So if I had multiple schools, what this would show is the difference between the two schools when I am looking at 8+ skills assessed, and I would see the average growth, and 16+ skills assessed and the average growth. Both will show me the percentage of students that fit within these two parameters. So 8+ and 16+. And remember, these are both the recommended amount of skills assessed. 8+ is for 12 weeks, 16+ is for the entire school year. But you can see there's a difference between the two. If I clicked on 8+ for this particular grade level in this school, if I hover my mouse over the dot on my graph, it's telling me the percentage of students with 8+ skills and their average growth points, right? So 99% of the students in this grade level had 8+ skills assessed. And then if I click on 8+ skills assessed, right? And then the average growth is 109 points. 16+, you'll notice if I hover my mouse, the percentage of students with 16+ skills is 76, so that's lower. So we have less students in this grade level that were able to achieve 16+ skills assessed on their learning path during the entire year. And the average test growth for those students was 109 points. Okay, if we had multiple schools, we'd be able to compare the two. But this is what you'll see as a school admin for this particular choice and report under impact report in schools. If you scroll down, it's just going to give you that same amount, that same information, but it is in a chart form. If I had multiple schools, again, the schools would then be listed here, and I could sort these columns to see which schools would fall into the 16 plus skills by higher to lower, lower to higher, and the points, average growth, lower to higher, higher to lower. So this actual report would benefit multiple school comparison. All right, so let's jump over to the students. So the student's view can be accessed the student view can be accessed via the Students tab right here, okay? Or if you're in Overview, like I showed you before, if you selected any one of, like here, any one of these students, it would also bring you to the Students tab, okay? So from here, admins can leverage the student data to distinguish students by their usage, supporting students in the 0 and 1 to 7 skills groups. So this will show you the students that need support because they've only been able to assess between 1 and 7 skills through the whole school year. So trying to support teachers on how to utilize the program more. And then you can celebrate students that fell in the 8 to 15 and 16 plus groupings. So this tab here is going to show us the most detailed data within the impact report. You can easily filter by unique skills assessed and the amount of test growth using the buttons above the chart, and then view information for each student, including grade, skill, test growth, scores from each testing window, class, teacher, okay? And if you have multiple schools, it would be by school. So how do we find this information? Again, utilizing the filtering here, choosing your grade group. I'll choose grade 3, choosing my subject area. I'll choose reading, exact path, again, academic year, test windows, and apply. So now the way this works is you're going to get data that's going to give you, obviously, student name, student grade, how many unique skills were assessed, and the test growth, the test score for window 1, the test score for window 2. Those are diagnostics, right? Unique skills, remember, those refer back to the learning path. The test growth is the growth that students score between testing windows, and that the test growth is determined by their diagnostic scores between test windows. And then you can now filter down by class name, teacher name. So if you'd like to see a specific teacher, you can sort by teacher name, and you can look at teachers. You can look at your teacher's group of students, and then you can sort by their test growth and so forth. So how does this work? What this does here, these little buttons, is you're able to drill down even further. So like I said before, if you want to see the students that need support, clicking on the 0 skills and 1 to 7 skills assessed, that's going to give us a list of students' names, right? They're all going to be in the same grade because we clicked on the same one grade level. And then I could look to see what the test growth was, or if I wanted to, I could look to see of these students that were selected that only assessed between 0 and 7 skills, how many of them got 11 plus points test growth? So more than 11 points on their growth. If I clicked on that and I scrolled down, I would see those students. If I wanted to see students that only grew 6 to 10 points on their diagnostics test, I can click and see those students. So you're really drilling down by the amount of skills that students were assessed during their learning path, and we chose the entire school year, and how that relates, how that relates to their test growth. So we could see how many points those students got. So if we have these two selected and 0 or less points, and we have some students in this area, those students need the most help. Students here, second to most. Okay, so you're able to scroll down. I'm not going to scroll down so that I can keep the information of students private, but I just want you to be able to understand how this data is extremely powerful for you and for your teachers and for your students to be able to see specifically how more skills can yield a higher growth in scores between diagnostic tests. Okay? So let's make sense of the results completely. So student population size, let's talk about that. So any data points with fewer than 30 students, like I showed in the overview video, they should be considered carefully. Because when the group is small, minor changes may appear to shift the trends more than expected. So, for example, if there are 12 students in a group and 2 students have poor testing, this might bring down the average student growth, right? So if you notice that you have less than 30 students in your population size when you're looking at your data, I would suggest then changing your student grade level to maybe include your groupings of grades. So it would be grade ranges here that you can choose for your school. If you have mostly small groups of students being presented in the overview, right, which is what I showed you in the last video, it says to consider using the Students tab as your main source of data. So if you notice that a lot of your data in your overview is giving you less than 30 student results for your graph, then jump over to the Students tab as your main data source so that you can get a truer picture of the connection between the learning path completion and test growth. And also remember that only students with completed tests in both test windows appear on the report. So for example, for testing window 1, students that didn't take diagnostic test 1 in the fall are not represented in this data, because obviously we can't compare the growth if they didn't take the first test, or same vice versa. If they took test 1 and they didn't take test 4, those students will be admitted. All right, so the last thing I just want to say is just talk to you about the understanding of the data variance in impact reports. So your data in your impact report may occasionally show variance from expected outcomes. If you notice differences between your anticipated and actual results, consider the following questions to ask yourself to help interpret. Number 1, like we said, are there less than 100 students overall, or are there less than 30 students in each group? If that's yes, then consider utilizing the student view. That would give you a greater view into individual student growth. Ask yourself if there were at least 100 days between test administration windows, and for this particular demonstration, it was a whole school year, and so that we have truer results. But if not, you must consider adjusting the future test windows. So that's something that the district would do, but this year it was fine. And then are the students that are in the 8+ skill groups higher achievers? If you answer yes to that question, high achieving students may have less room to grow. We know that. from even our state tests. Once students have scored high or school have high scores in a particular grade level and subject area, it's hard to see growth because they're closer to the top. So consider making a plan to increase skills completion for students with lower achievement levels to further accelerate their growth and enable more accurate comparisons between skill completion groups. Okay, so you're able, if your data isn't kind of jiving, that's one of the things that you should consider. And then, of course, if there are any external factors impacting student growth, such as there could be certain schools or grade levels that show ideal growth where others don't, you might have to dive deeper into figuring out why that would happen in your school. And obviously, that's a conversation that you would have with your administrative team, and then whatever grades you would find that fit into that criteria. All right, so this has been a video on the impact report for ExactPath, looking at the schools and the students tabs and understanding the data, making sense of our results, and knowing when we see some results that might not fit into what you might be seeing from those students in other assessments. All right, guys, I hope this helped. Have a great day.